Hello, my name is Trent Hopkinson, and today for my presentation I am going to say why GWS will win the Battle of Western Sydney. Now, I've got this quote in the introduction as I believe it sums up the presentation nicely, as it identifies the challenge that lies ahead for GWS and the AFL, and justifies why they are called the Giants, as it's a giant opportunity for the AFL and a giant challenge that lies ahead. Now, we've got the contents page up here, starting with the current situation that is evolving, moving on to the current NRL status, then reasons why to expand into Sydney, and then reasons why GWS will win the Battle of Western Sydney before concluding. Since the 1980s, the fortress for the NRL has been the Western Sydney area, with the likes of the Penrith Panthers, Parramatta Eels, Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs and the West Tigers holding a strong foundation for the NRL. In March 2008, it had been confirmed that the 18th AFL side was going to be located in the heartland of Western Sydney, and here a rivalry was instantly produced and the Battle of Western Sydney had begun. Rugby league is the main sport played and sported in the Sydney area, with 9 teams currently in the NRL competition, 4 of which are from the Western Sydney area. The Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, Parramatta Eels and West Tigers all average over 17,000 people to their home games, and all possess superstars such as Benji Marshall, Ben Barber and Jared Hayne that produce magic week in, week out. Penrith, on the other hand, are currently struggling, going through a transition phase at the club, which only sees them average around 13,000 people to their home games, which is alarming when they are the closest perimeter to where GWS are calling home. Although the NRL have denied the threat of GWS taking over the Western Sydney area, they have done very little to the growth of their game in the past 10 years, and the NRL has refused to help the Western Sydney clubs, which may prove their downfall. Now, you may ask, why expand into Sydney? Well, since the 1980s, the AFL has been growing in the Sydney area, and recently, since 2003 in fact, has averaged crowds of over 30,000 to Sydney Swan games, and it had become evident to the AFL at that point, at the point of expansion, Sydney was going to need another team. Now, the next couple of points I will elaborate on further into this presentation, but with a population of around 4 million people in this Western Sydney area and expansion areas of southern New South Wales and Canberra, there was going to be a huge base to generate support and produce talent for the organisation. But the AFL had a plan and a desire to expand the sport into New South Wales, and when you've got the type of money that AFL has to develop the sport in the state, and is summed up nicely in this picture on the screen, as although the Giants are the team going into Western Sydney, the AFL as a whole are behind them on their journey that they are embarking on. In addition, GWS were given a huge pay packet by the AFL to ensure that they utilised all parts of the media to promote and market their organisation, but also get the best players, staff and equipment to leave their mark in the Western Sydney area. Now I'm going to speak on why GWS will win the Battle of Western Sydney, firstly starting with learning from past mistakes. As there has been the expansion of the game before in the AFL, mistakes have been made and therefore limited the long-term success at a club. A club such as Port Adelaide, for example, who are on the blink of folding from the AFL due to political conflict and financial reasons, are a great example of mistakes that have limited the long-term success of an organisation, as they did not develop their players in the correct fashion, and not only not having a proper home which they could call their fortress, which has limited the club's success on and off the field and their support. A successful franchise needs a home, and GWS has this in Blacktown. With an arrangement with the AFL and the Sydney Swans, the state of New South Wales has been divided into 2, with each team having priority over players from their area and the ability to play games at venues in their area. The GWS area sees them go from southwest Sydney all the way up to Broken Hill, down the border of New South Wales, all the way up to Wollongong. Not only is this a huge chunk of New South Wales, but it is where AFL is the major sport and has produced such great players as Wayne Carey, Paul Kelly and James Hurt, and currently over 10 players from the GWS region are playing for AFL clubs. Now, going on to marketing and promotion of the franchise. This is where GWS have utilised their resources to get the best out of their organisation. They have utilised the area they got to promote their organisation, especially in Canberra, which will be used as the Giants' second home. The ACT for GWS campaign involved over 5,000 Canberrans showing their support and pledging $50 to become a foundation member. This ensured 4 games a season for the next 10 seasons in the nation's capital. This created remarkable publicity for the franchises. The people in Canberra were influxed by the organisation by all parts of the media, but also word of mouth, as the likes of Kevin Sheedy and Israel Folau had been signed to the franchise, and although people were not sure if the organisation would be a success, along with the fact that Canberra has never had a team to call their own, they were curious and wanted to know more and got behind the idea. There are 2 main signings that have really put GWS on the map and made everyone stand up and notice they were the real deal. Firstly, the signing of a 4-time premiership coach and regarded by some as one of the best in Kevin Sheedy. Kevin's outspoken nature has provided invaluable publicity to the GWS franchise, with plenty of media attention coming his way over the past couple of AFL seasons on certain matters, and this kind of publicity well and truly pays for the worth of his paycheck. Although another 38 players are currently on the GWS list, none created the headlines and publicity that Israel Folau made. He was the superstar on the rise in the NRL and is getting paid almost double what he's getting paid in the NRL to play a sport he hasn't played before. This created bucket loads of political conflict as the AFL, NRL, the media, the community were curious to whether he'd succeed in the sport and whether it was morally correct for someone who has never played the game before to be earning more than someone like Chris Judd, a 2-time Brownlow medalist. However, the publicity it brought was priceless. Next, moving on to community outreach and promotion. When going into the unknown, this is a critical part of the GWS marketing campaign, which saw them not only promote their franchise into Western Sydney, but Canberra, the South Coast and Southern New South Wales. In just Canberra alone, the stats are there to see. They did a lot of work to help promote their franchise, and this goes a long way to the development of the franchise, and again, word of mouth from children brings bucket loads of publicity as people start to make a connection with the brand of GWS Giants, and because of this, curiosity become part of the franchise. As the social age is upon us, the social media is becoming more and more a marketing tool for organisations. GWS have utilised this perfectly to help promote their organisation with the use of Facebook, Twitter and YouTube to promote the club and its upcoming events. With the addition of Kevin Sheedy, Israel Folau and the speculation of other players joining the side such as Tom Scully and Cullen Ward, GWS were always going to generate media attention. However, GWS had made an extensive effort to build a strong rapport with the media so that they could constantly be in the minds of the potential supporters and by informing them on media updates on the team's progress, upcoming events, promotions and events, and just thoughts on the current season to ensure that they made it through to their potential market. In concluding, there are 4 main points that in my opinion will go a long way to GWS winning the Battle of Western Sydney. Planning this expansion has been years in the making. The AFL had a desire to make the AFL the most played sport in the country, and the implementation of this team will go one step further to reaching that goal. That's why the AFL have given the money for the development and marketing and promotion in GWS in the past 5 years to ensure that all they utilise the resources possible to get the best players, staff, equipment and promote the organisation as best as possible. And going into the 2012 season, GWS have already got 11,700 members, only 300 members off that of the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, whose membership is the highest of all the Western Sydney clubs in the NRL. This, along with the arrogance of the NRL not being threatened by GWS leads me to predict AFL's dominance of NRL in Western Sydney. Now, I've just got a couple of references here, and thank you for listening to my presentation.